Thank you, Speaker Hortman. Members, tonight we have heard a lot of passion, a lot of feelings, a lot of opinions on this bill, with some pretty big promises and some pretty big expectations. In the committee, when the bill was heard, it was referred to as the everything bill, because feeding a student solves so many of the other problems in our schools. And while that is true, to some extent, I don't think this bill is what actually will fix that. And I think of what my grandmother and my mother always said: money doesn't grow on trees, and there is no free lunch. But beyond the rhetoric, however, is the reality. So I want to be honest about what this bill is not going to do, what it doesn't accomplish. This bill is not going to end the practice of lunch shaming, which shouldn't happen. But kids are still going to see the other kids who have the financial means to afford those extra food or the extra a la carte items. This bill is also not going to end unpaid meal debts, because students somehow might still find that way to rack up meal debts through the a la carte or the extra food purchases, especially when the federal meal provided is either not to the student's liking or it's too little to satisfy the hunger of a growing child. And I know Representative Kresha talked about his students that are alpine skiers. It reminds me of when my last two kids were in high school. My daughter had finally graduated, so I'm thinking, great, I'll put money in my son's account, and it should last for 2 months instead of just the one. But at 17, my son was 6'4" and an athlete. And so when we ran out of money, instead of 2 months in the account and it was 3 weeks, I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I was starving and I needed to eat extra a la carte, and my sister was gone, so I just went ahead and used what I thought was hers." And so those meal sizes and the calorie count isn't right for all kids. Also, members, this bill does not ensure that no child is hungry. The bill doesn't send home food at night or over the weekends, but during committee testimony, we heard about the inspiring comments from nutrition workers that provide those take-home meals or snacks, but this bill doesn't cover that. This bill does not end school nutrition program cost overruns. The state aid only covers the difference between the federal fee and the federal free meal reimbursement and the actual federal reimbursement for each meal. If a student meal debt is still accruing or reimbursement rates don't keep pace with the food prices that we know are escalating and other program needs, that cost is still needing to be accounted for. So to be clear, what this bill does is provide a federally reimbursable school meal for every child, regardless of whether the parents need or even want that help to feed their children. I can understand why the majority wants to provide free meals for all students, because we've seen how the failed economic policies of the current administration have pushed too many hardworking families to the brink. Families are struggling to make ends meet with the higher prices at the grocery stores and at the fuel pump and our electric prices. Too many families are on the edge of eligibility for qualifying for free school meals under the current guidelines. And as we heard Representative Pryor talk about that testimony in committee, where parents were using credit cards and trying to get what they needed because they were so close, but they didn't quite qualify. Well, members, tonight we had an amendment from Representative Knutson that would have actually answered that. We offered other amendments to find common ground to feeding children in households of need. Yes, as we have seen, though, time and time again, bill after bill on the House floor, our amendments are rejected. Our offers of compromise to help were again rejected. So if I were to support this bill, one reason might be that the majority has finally put a proposal on the floor that treats all of our kids the same, including our kids in private schools and including those kids in the private religious schools. We don't yet know how much money each school site is going to get, but our estimate is that private schools are going to receive around $35 million over the next 4 years. But I'm not going to be supporting this bill tonight. I do look forward to watching my DFL colleagues vote to send public funds to private schools to end that misconception that public funds for non-public education is actually a threat to public schools. So members, I am urging a no vote on this bill this evening. We have an opportunity to expand current meal programs to help more families that are suffering under a disastrous economic policy and provide more funding to empower school districts to improve instruction, to pay our teachers and our staff better salaries, and to address the needs of students. So members, tonight, vote red.